Alright guys, so today we're going to be talking about Star Wars Squadrons, and at the time of recording this video, the new update just came out. The game's been out for exactly 2 months. The day of recording this, it might be a couple of days later by the time you guys see it, but the game's been out for 2 months. New update just came out. I thought there were new ships, but it turns out that is not the case. But we're going to go through everything that's new, everything that's coming soon, if the game's improved, if I was wrong about the game in my initial review. If you haven't watched that, go check that out. I'll put a card to it up in the corner. But more importantly, make sure you guys are subscribed, as 90% of you who watch these videos are not subscribed. But first, let's get started within the customization. So I'll try not to repeat too much of the same stuff from my review in case you just came from watching that. But essentially a big problem I had at launch is within the visual and mechanical customization of ships. There just was not enough of it, or what was there was not meaningful. Specifically the mechanical side of it, I mean the visual side as well, but more for the ships, and that's even more so in this new update. The engines and the shield types, there's just too many. They all relatively do the same thing. You'll have one engine that gives you, plus 30% accuracy and plus 30% boost rate and minus 10% laser damage and stuff like that. And there were a few at launch to where it was reasonable. A couple of them were a little bit repetitive, but now I think they've added more, and I think they just do relatively all function the same, and they don't really need that many upgrades where they could put their time and effort on something that needs more attention. But while talking about customization, let's look at visual customization. As you can see, I'm flipping through the character here, and this is something that, again, I don't think matters that much. Even though there is a decent amount of character customization, there just is not any use for it. You can't really see your character. Even in the loading screen, other players can see your character, but you cannot see yourself. I really think that in another game where maybe it's third person or something, there's cutscenes where you can see your character, something like that, this would have made sense and been cool, but none of it really matters. But what does matter is the actual ships themselves, so let's get into that. And so, like I said a minute ago, there's a lot of meaningless customization here within the both visual and mechanical side. And again, the engines and all that stuff we talked about, but there's no new cannons, which I think they could have used a bit of a refresher there. There's your automatic and your burst, and I think a third category would really be appreciated, something to just change it up a little bit, have more than 2 options. Again, within your LB and RB, your missile abilities, there's a couple of new things, but really they're just slight tweaks on other things that are already in there. Missiles that are good for shields, but just long range now, or they're good for going through shields. Though that's really the only new thing that they've added, is the ability for missiles to go through shields. But again, a lot of the other things in here are just the range is shorter, or the range is longer, the damage is up and the damage is down. They're really not that different or unique in any way. Don't really add anything to the game overall. And so as far as 2 months later, the character customization, again, doesn't really add that much to the game. And again, even if it did, it really doesn't matter all that much. And the ship customization, mechanically, again, is relatively simple and not changing in any way. But the actual visual customization for ships, I will say, the skins themselves, while some are good, and these charms and different ornaments you can have inside of your cockpit, I really like the things that they've added. Now, there were some at launch, there's a lot at launch, that aren't very good, but a lot of the things that they've added post-launch, a lot of the Mandalorian stuff and some of the other ornaments that they've added are really solid for ornaments, of course, that are just decorations. And so, again, some of the skins, especially the Imperial skin that you'll see here in a minute for all of the ships, I really like. The kind of Dagobah covered in moss X-Wing skin, I like a lot. And just, small things like that. Again, you can't really see those. You only see them, I guess, either in your kill cam or when the game ends or starts. So, I mean, again, these aren't things that really matter. The only thing they've added so far that really matters is the new map that is in. And so the Nadiri Dockyards, I believe is how you pronounce it, is the name of the new map. And so there's goods and bads with this, obviously, as there is with everything. So positively, obviously, it is a new map, something to kind of spice up the original 3 or 4 maps that are in Fleet Battles. But negatively, it's not an original map, right? Now, again, you can look at it and say they said they weren't adding content to this game, and technically, this is new content and a free update, so you can't really complain. because, again, like I said, they weren't going to add anything, but now they are. But this is already in the campaign. If you've played the campaign, or I believe when you start up the game, this is kind of the tutorial area, so everyone would have played this. So it's just the first area that you're introduced to in the game, and it's not original or unique really in any sort of way. It is, I believe, one of the better fleet battle maps, because a lot of the problems with the other fleet battle maps, and I say this in my full review of the game, is that there's not a lot of stuff, right? There's one other map that just has a lot of cover and a lot of debris everywhere that allows some sort of interesting dogfights and maneuvers for attacking capital enemy ships. Now, a bigger problem, again, within the maps is this map does provide that, but again, it's very laney, I guess that's what I'm going to call it, Call of Duty-y, whatever adjective that you want to use there to describe some of the maps. Now, again, like I said, some of them are either just one big mess, or they have, complex designs, but this map is very two-laned. There's your cover and your no cover, right? And we'll get to gameplay of the new map here in a second. But again, it's very just bland, although it is, like I said, new content, so it is a positive in that way. But it's not the most interesting or dynamic map that they could have possibly added. I do hope that if they continue to add content, they'll add some kind of atmosphere battles, maybe something over different types of planets. I think that would be really cool, but again, you never know, because originally they said they weren't adding content, and now there's content. But let's get on to the more interesting news, which is the new ships that were, I guess, technically leaked first, but now they're pretty much confirmed that are coming to the game. And I'll throw them up on screen in case you guys haven't seen them. But again, we don't know too much about them, but it is new and interesting content, and these are like big gameplay changers, assuming they are unique vehicles and not just different variations of different classes, like how the fighter and the interceptor are very similar while they do different things, or relatively the same. Hopefully these two new ships are very different and completely unique. And so moving away from the news part of this video and more into the opinionated review, I guess, type that thing, if that's what you want to call it. And so when I made my Star Wars Squadrons review, I don't remember exactly what I gave it, but I believe it was below average. I believe that's what I gave the game, either average or below average. So a 4 or 5 is probably what I gave the game, right? And so I felt that that was being really easy on the game. And it was really conflicting when making the review, because a lot of the other reviewers who review this game, and not just big places like IGN and all of that, but more small independent reviewers also, were giving this game really high scores, and also just really good things said about it, not only in reviews, but just in gameplay videos. And they made all types of content about this game for a couple of weeks before and after the launch, because they get review copies and all of that. And so, again, part of that might be getting those review copies and being obligated to say good things about the game, but I do feel like a lot of people really like this game. And so that was kind of the YouTube, social media, perspective that I got on this game when I was working on my review. And so a lot of people I played with, my friends, the core group of people that I play with when reviewing multiplayer games, they all hated this game, right? So I had two conflicting sides, and I don't really remember if I talked too much about this in my actual review, but really, a lot of the YouTubers were saying this game is great, 7, 8, 9. I don't think I saw any 10s, but the really high scores, like in the great range, right? Something I've given to like Fallen Order and games like that. And so, and then my friend group, right, people I play with constantly and play similar games, they were giving things like 2, 1, 3. I mean, I know people who played this game twice and then said it was so bad they never touched it, right? And then I sit right in the middle, and again, if you've seen my review, you know that. But I've just been thinking, and I've been rewatching a lot of the reviews that I've been watching, and I'm thinking, is this game really good or really bad? Am I crazy? Like, what's going on, right? And so I sat down, and that's kind of what started all of this. I mean, the new content, of course, played into it, but starting over and really sitting down and just like wiping the slate clean with the game, other than the campaign, because that is terrible, but mainly the gameplay and the multiplayer, and seeing if I just missed something, if there was something here that I didn't see in my initial review. And so I stopped with my initial review playing this game around level 19, I had pretty much everything I wanted unlocked again before they added all of the Mandalorian customization and all of that stuff. And so when I came back to the game in this new season, they've kind of pulled a Modern Warfare in, completely resetting your rank, but in this time kind of giving you the option if you want to do that. You don't have to reset your rank, but if, for some reason you got absolutely smacked in the first season just because their matchmaking was off and everything was new, you could reset your rank. And so I experimented with that a little bit. I didn't really touch Dogfight because I do agree that Dogfight is insanely boring and kind of a tutorial mode for this game. Fleet Battles is really where all the content and kind of meat of the game is, right? And so after playing a decent amount more of this game, again, I already feel like I played a decent amount before in my initial review, but playing even more, kind of experimenting with stuff that I wouldn't typically use. I used the Y-Wing and played kind of the bomber class a lot whenever I worked on my review and my first kind of playthrough of the game, if that's what you want to call it. And I started with that here, don't get me wrong. I came back and played the Y-Wing, and I experimented with pretty much every ship except for the support ships, just because that's not how I want to play these games, and I don't think that would be interesting. But again, I experimented with everything, and while I do think they've definitely made tweaks and changes to make everything more balanced, the bombers felt like they had a lot less health. You could kill them a lot quicker, which resulted in the sides, I guess, or the turns from each team lasting a bit longer, which helps the overall health of the game in the Fleet Battles game mode. But overall, the moment-to-moment gameplay, even completely changing up my loadouts, using stuff that I would never use, didn't really change all of that much. And that really carries over to my opinion of the game. Really hasn't changed all of that much, right? And again, if you guys think that I'm doing something wrong, if I need to use the specific ship and the specific build and play in this specific style, let me know and I'll do it and make part 3. But honestly, from where I'm sitting, from kind of the two completely different perspectives I've played this game in, both my personal playstyle and just trying out every other playstyle and giving the game another chance, I don't see where these 7, 8, 9 ratings are coming from, right? And the game's still doing relatively good player count. I mean, for $40, very limited experience, flight simulator essentially is what it is, game, doing quite well. I've seen still people making videos about it. A lot of players didn't have problems finding a match. I was getting in matches really quickly, which surprised me. But overall, I just don't think there's enough here, and that's kind of the name of the game, not only with Star Wars Squadrons, but with pretty much everything coming out now. And again, I don't claim to be some Star Wars Squadrons wizard that knows all of the best loadouts in order to perform the best. I mean, obviously, any game is fun if you're doing good. I feel like I do relatively alright where I place. And just even doing good, obviously doing bad isn't fun, but even when you're doing good, the game is just fine. I say this in my actual review of the game, and I felt this even more here, because while I wanted these new Mandalorian cosmetics for your ship, all these ornaments, having Grogu, spoilers, and all of that stuff, all these crazy new ornaments that you could add, while playing the actual gameplay and grinding to get the currency in order to buy this stuff, that part's fun, right? But it's not just with this game. With every game, you have that moment in the menu, right, where you actually unlock the item and equip it to your ship. Right, and a lot of stuff, and this can go for, like I said, a lot of games, but a lot of the fun is working for the item itself, right? Once you have the item, it doesn't really, especially visual items, that's pretty much it, right? You've worked for it, now you have it, cool. But in this game, where everything is so much that visual cosmetic that doesn't change how the game plays at all, it really honestly doesn't even change how the game looks at all, since it's such a minor difference. It's not this third-person game where your character skin is completely different, or a different gun skin that's just in your face the whole time you're playing. It's a little ornament in the corner of your ship, and so I feel like what you're working for, what you're kind of grinding out, the whole reason you're playing the game, the progression you're working towards, your whole motivation to play is really pointless. But that's just me. If you like the game, you can like the game. I'm not going to hate on you for liking it. If If you guys think something different, if you think I'm just missing something again, let me know in the comments down below. Now, before we end this video, I want to say that my Assassin's Creed review will come out at some point. Along with the Cyberpunk review, we're getting very close by the time this video comes out. A couple of days. It actually should come out this Thursday by the time you guys see this. And so that will have a first impressions and a review. Again, just like Assassin's Creed, it's going to be very long before we get to that review. But again, I'm 100%ing, not so much Cyberpunk, because that's a lot of work and commitment that I don't have. But Assassin's Creed, I am 100%ing, so that's why that review is taking so long. But it will come out, hopefully, before the end of this year. But let me know what you guys think down below, and I'll see you guys on the next one.